Every generation hates the generation that comes right before it. And mostly because they're young and dumb. And they're only dumb because they're children that haven't experienced anything of the world yet. Boomers were hated by their elders. I think they were called the greatest generation. And they get to be called the greatest generation because that's a generation that fought in World War II and secured our peace for the next 70 years. Their elders were called the silent generation. And I like to believe that they're called that because they couldn't say shit about their younger generation because the greatest generation fought in World War II. An 18-year-old then was being shipped off to Europe or the South Pacific to get gunned down by Nazis or lose their toes to trench foot or frostbite. An 18-year-old now, if you slightly raise your voice to them, they'll start crying because of microaggressions. We'll get back to that in a minute. But after World War II, the GIs came home and started families, and that's how we got the baby boomers, because there was a boom in the babies being born. Well, the boomers took the privilege and freedom that they got from their parents and defied all of that and the American dream with peace and love and sex and drugs and rock and roll. And eventually the boomers grew up and started getting jobs and creating families and buying houses and making money. And they resented Gen X because we were wild and young like they used to be. And this is where I start to have a little problem with the whole generation overview, because when you start to look a little deeper, look a little closer, there's some overlaps and discrepancies that just don't seem to make sense. Because the way the numbers work out, it puts the middle 70s punk revolution as a boomer thing, and that ain't right. But Gen X was just a little too young for that era. I feel like there should be a middle generation between Gen X and the baby boomers. Those born in the unyet specified years in the 50s that would grow up and in their formative years would encompass that whole middle 70s punk rock and disco era. The other problem I have with the generations, by the way the numbers are laid out currently, is Gen X kind of encompasses everything from Van Halen to early 80s new wave to hair metal all the way up through grunge. The oldest Gen Xer would have turned 18 somewhere in the early 80s. And the youngest Gen Xer turned 18 in 97, 98. And that is a huge difference. So are we defined by the 80s or by the 90s? Anyway, that's just a little caveat that I'll explore in another video. Back to Generation X growing up. And to paraphrase John Lennon, life kind of just happened to us while we were making other plans. And along came the millennials. And for some reason, the boomers hated the millennials more than they hated Gen X, more than they hated us. And maybe it was a lifetime of being ignored as a generation, or just a history of childhood neglect, but we didn't care what they thought about us. But I always thought the hate on the millennials was kind of ridiculous, because they're just young and dumb, like every new generation. Young and dumb, just like we were, and just like the boomers were at that age. But now, I am fully on board with the millennial hate. The youngest millennials are just now turning 30, and the oldest millennials are in their middle 40s. They're not children anymore, and most of them still act like the world owes them something. From what I've observed, they're having a real hard time adjusting to daily life with anxiety and stress and demeaning advertising, unrealistic beauty standards telling them that they're not good enough, and crowded grocery stores, and barking dogs tracking mud on their clean floors, and navigating social media, and working jobs that they hate, and having kids that hate them. Yeah, adulting sucks. Do you need a personal day? Do you need to go to your safe space, pumpkin? I'm just kidding. Get back on that horse. Do it all again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and for every day for the rest of your life. Because you're never going to get to retire like your parents or your grandparents. Politicians have wrecked the economy and the environment, and billionaires have sucked all of the money and the value out of this world. And after AI takes over, you'll be lucky that there's still a job for you to have when you're 50. I'm just kidding. There's cancer-causing additives in all the food and microplastics and all the air and water pollution that's going to come from all the AI data centers. You won't live to 50. So how's that, all my beautiful millennial friends, for a microaggression? Please subscribe to my channel and share this with any of your friends or family that identifies as a millennial, and we can troll them together. Love you. Bye.